Hey listeners, if you're enjoying Speaking Soundly, please consider supporting our work with a tax-deductible donation. You can easily contribute on our website at artfulnarrativesmedia.com/donate. Click the link in the show notes of this episode, or you can follow us on Instagram at SpeakingSNDLY and get all the information there. Either way, every donation, no matter the size, helps us keep bringing you inspiring conversations with remarkable artists. So thank you for your continued support. We really appreciate it. Be sure to check out slippeddisc.com for the latest inside information on classical music now. Kayhan Kalhor is a multi-talented virtuoso of many instruments, including the kamancheh, the ancient Persian predecessor of the violin, which he's helped to popularize through his solo performances and collaborations. When he was just a teenager, forced to flee Iran during the revolution, music became both his refuge and bridge to the world, carrying him from exile to global acclaim.
One day everything changes, and your life is not the same anymore for your family, for anyone around you. And I was one of them. But considering that I was this child with my kamancheh and my backpack and leaving my country, I was very lucky.
You're listening to Speaking Soundly, a backstage pass to today's biggest stars of the music world. I'm your host, David Krauss, principal trumpet of the Metropolitan Opera. During each episode, you'll hear me speak with inspiring performers about their creative process and the personal journey that led them to the stage. I ride the subway to work every day, and when I'm on the train, I'm usually listening to music to drown out the noise. And the other day, I'm listening to one of your improvisations from an early album you did, and something happened to me while listening to it, which, as a lifelong New Yorker, never happens to me.
I hope it was something good.
No, it wasn't good. I missed my stop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened. There was something about the way you were playing the kamancheh that distorted my sense of time in between subway stations. When 66th Street came up, I was completely lost. Does Persian music just exist in a different time universe compared to all other Western music?
I would say yes, actually. That's what that kind of music should do. It's another entity from another time. I wouldn't start listening to something like that in the middle of the day when I have to go to work myself. Yeah, but it's actually good and bad because it's nice that it can transform you and take you to a place that you forget the reality and where you are, the everyday life. But at the other hand, it's designed for you to take your attention for a long time, make you sit down and think of a place and a mental state that it wants to build for you. This is why I perform all the time. I just want to try that state of mind, try to get there. And when you get there, it's another world, and it's every time is different. And you have to bear in mind that this is a very, very old musical culture that comes from the time that people have a lot of time to listen to music.
So not ideal for a busy commute, I guess. The instrument that you play, the kamancheh, combines elements both of the cello and the violin in terms of the way it's tuned and the way you play it. And I apologize in advance because explaining your instrument to people like me is probably something you have to do all the time. But
it's totally okay.
Okay, good. Well, can you tell me about the origin of the instrument?
Well, kamancheh is probably the oldest bowed instrument that was created in Central Asia. And Central Asia back then was Persia. And kamancheh in Persian language means little hunting bow, which is a very interesting name because, at some point this instrument used to be a plucked instrument. And, somebody at the hunt, some people, they probably got drunk and, after hunting and fooling around with it, used their hunting bow to make this plucked instrument sound. Obviously, the hunting bow is huge and they couldn't, use it to play an instrument. And they made smaller version of it. So it means little hunting bow, literally.
You were born in Iran and began the kamancheh at a very young age. What were your first memories of the instrument and what initially drew you to it?
Interesting question. There was this old master of kamancheh. Back then, not many people played this instrument. It was almost an abandoned or forgotten instrument. Maybe one old master played kamancheh very beautifully. Ustad Bahari, he was maybe in his late 70s back then. And once in a while, he did this kind of 15 minutes, 20 minutes solos in the national TV. And I used to watch him and just fell in love with that sound. At that time, I played Iranian violin. And that was enough for me to switch on kamancheh. And I didn't have any teachers, in my small city. But, I decided to buy a kamancheh, and which was a difficult task to begin with.
How old were you at this point?
Around 10. Yeah, when I started music, I was 5. But when I decided to play kamancheh, I was probably 10 years old. And I started to play kamancheh, just watching his films and things like that, so how to hold the instrument, how to play it, and imitate his sound.
What was it specifically about the instrument that just grabbed hold of you?
The human quality of the sound that it produced, that the violin didn't do it for me. There was this reedy human voice quality into it. And that's what it probably taken me. I don't know. I'm still in love with the sound, and I have great respect and regards for Ustad Bahari, who initiated my love to Kamancheh and who was responsible for this love relationship with this instrument.
And you took to it quickly because by the age of 13, you were already playing professionally with the National Radio and Television Orchestra of Iran. What was that experience like for you? I mean, you were probably the only child among all these adults.
Scary in the beginning because, all my colleagues were in their 40s or 50s or more. But I tried to be myself, be part of the ensemble. There was this old member of the ensemble who was in his 60s back then, Ustad Masqadi. And he helped me a lot to find myself and not be intimidated by, where I was and the situation. So a lot of people helped me to find myself in that world and function. And then later on, probably I had enough self-esteem to continue.
Well, you were obviously a very talented young music student, but while you were studying and practicing all day, you also had a talent and a passion for riding horses. How in the world did you find time to do both while keeping up with school and dealing with family and all that?
Yeah. School was always secondary for me. I tried to pass exams and, don't pay attention to anything that goes on, and then ran home to play music. And my brother was into horses. So, that world was very attractive for me. But after 13, 14, I realized that I cannot do both. So I just put that aside. I still have horses, but just for fun. I never got really serious in horses.
Mhm.
So I knew that music is more serious for me.
Well, between riding horses and studying music, it sounds like you had an idyllic childhood. But during this time, Iran was undergoing significant cultural and political upheaval during the revolution.
That's how the world collapsed.
Yeah, so amid that turbulence, did
Yeah.
you feel the weight of those changes, or did music somehow insulate you from that?
Well, I can't say that I was insulated, but in the beginning, as a teenager, you think, well, this is going to pass. This is not going to be a permanent change. But as any society that experiences a revolution, you realize, well, that this is going to be permanent and it's going to stay. So you have to adapt yourself. Every Iranian family went through that, and that affected everybody's life.
The way it affected yours was that at 17, you decided to leave home for Europe. Was that a tough decision to make, or did it feel like the only option at the time?
It wasn't the only option, but because at the time I played with the best ensemble in the country, with few best musicians, masters, around me to learn from, and it was the ideal situation for anyone, any young musician. But I never wanted to imitate others and wanted to find myself. Plus, I was fascinated with Western classical music and the Western world of music, and to learn and see what's out there. As any other young person in this world, I was trying to find myself, learn more, and develop my career as a musician.
I've heard you speak about this journey, and you tend to downplay the cinematic aspect of the fact that you walked through Turkey, Romania, and Yugoslavia,
Yes,
more than 2,500 miles, to finally reach Rome carrying only two things: a backpack and a kamancheh.
that is correct.
Okay, so what part of the story do you think should not be turned into a movie?
I'm not downplaying it. I'm not diminishing the importance of it in my life. But what we have to bear in mind, we have to know is that every Iranian experienced that after the revolution, in different ways. Some went to the war and never came back. So I don't see myself as the only one being affected by the situation. There were many people who experienced it. They were ordinary people just living their lives, but one day everything changes and your life is not the same for your family, for anyone around you. And I was one of them. But considering that I was this child with my kamancheh and my backpack and leaving my country, I was very lucky to do what I did.
After you studied in Italy, you moved to Canada and then eventually settled in Brooklyn, where it sounds like your career really took off.
Yes.
I'd say a pivotal moment came when you performed with Yo-Yo Ma and the New York Philharmonic in 1998 here in New York. What was it like for you to be on stage with Yo-Yo Ma and the New York Philharmonic?
Kurt Mazur.
Yeah, he could be pretty intimidating.
That was a scary moment for me. The already of the conductor, that famous orchestra, everything was bigger than the size that I was used to. I wasn't used to that world. The first night was not very ideal for me. But it was a good experience. The second, third, and fourth night went much better. Fortunately, Yo-Yo was there and talked to me a lot about the situation. And, you have to be yourself. You're a performer, the way he can bring niceness and optimism to every situation. Overall, I learned a lot. And then it led to, many other activities that I was involved with later on.
Right. After this concert, Yo-Yo Ma invited you up to Massachusetts to collaborate with a group of international musicians, which eventually grew into the legendary Silkroad Ensemble. What was it like as a founding member of this great ensemble, bringing together so many musicians from such diverse backgrounds? Did it come together right away, or was it cacophony at first?
No, it didn't come together right away. It was a process, but the idea behind it was very fascinating and important, because in the world that we live today, we need that. We need this diversity in every way, and we need to recognize each other's cultures, mind, existence, and musically we were doing it there. And I think it was very important for what it was and the idea that it presented. As a young musician, I found it that, this project is exactly what I'm trying to do, to present my music in different contexts and presents other musical cultures in different contexts and put them together with an icon like Yo-Yo Ma, and it just broadens the angle of what I want to do and helps me present my musical culture. So this was something that I was already trying to do, but Silkroad put me in a greater seat to be able to be part of that.
It sounds like you were in the right place at the right time.
I told you I was lucky.
While you're thriving here in the States, it's around the time of 9/11.
Yes.
Anti-Muslim sentiment is growing, and because of that, You decide to return to Iran despite the cultural limitations of your native country, but while you're there performing, you decide to invest in it and dedicate part of your life to teaching. Did you somehow feel a responsibility to help cultivate a new generation of talent in your homeland?
Definitely. I definitely felt a responsibility towards younger generation of musicians because I didn't want them to go through what I went through to learn. And I learned it, in a difficult way and had a lot of hardship and difficulties to become what I am. And by the time they returned to Iran, there were a huge number of younger generation people that wanted to play traditional instruments, especially my instrument. And right now, and as we speak, there are hundreds of thousands of kamancheh players in Iran, and I feel the responsibility of passing around my experiences, my knowledge, and whatever I think is right for the future of the instrument.
This chapter of your life had you moving between Iran and the US, and it was deeply influenced by world politics and shifting cultural climates of the time. Was music an anchor for you during these difficult times?
Oh, definitely. Music was an anchor and a reason. Other than music or culture, we're humans. And these difficulties, maybe political difficulties or climates, made me more determined and more righteous to continue what I was doing, because through arts and culture, we can overcome that hatred that unfortunately exists between different ethnicities or cultures or countries, to offer each other peace and music and culture. The political difficulties are there, but we as people have to try to somehow soften the effects of that on people, learn to touch each other and to have dialogues. I hope it doesn't sound like a cliche, but it has saved me. That's a refuge. And when you feel alone, when you feel sad about the events in the world, music is the only refuge and the only way to go. I hope every person in the world has something like that, but I don't think anything is comparable with art or music. When you have that world and you find yourself in that sphere or whatever you want to call it, and just recharge yourself with it. Focus on become a better person the next day to be able to continue and see this brutality, ignorance, and ugliness. So all of these things. I think music helps me to become a better person.
Your music is amazing and your life is inspiring. So
Thank you.
well, I'm going to take your advice and listen to your music as I go to work in about 20 minutes.
Don't lose your stuff, though. Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Speaking Soundly. If you liked what you heard, please tell your friends about it. Help spread the word. And follow us on Instagram at SpeakingSNDLY. For more information, you can visit our website, artfulnarrativesmedia.com. If you're new to the show, you could go back and check out earlier episodes featuring Wynton Marsalis, Regina Spektor, Joyce DiDonato, Emmanuel Axe, and Rufus Wainwright, just to name a few. And tune in 2 weeks from today on April 15th as we hear Carnegie Hall's Executive and Artistic Director Clive Gillinson speaking soundly.